Good morning. Today we have a roster review for Mr. Chibbles. Not because he's a patron, but because he's done a lot of work to help me with my videos and creating custom graphics. So I'm excited to see what we can do to help him. Let's get into it. All right, first up, let's start with ships. Looks like you're not really into ships. I hear you, man. Neither am I. They're just a pain that you got to kind of put up with. Looks like you already got an arena fleet, but you're sitting in the 200s. Not really sure what to advise you because I don't know what direction you want to go. It doesn't look like you care a whole lot about ships. And, if you do, I apologize because I don't get that vibe. But I hear you. They're just a pain that you got to deal with. Okay, so a couple of quick notes here. Let's take a look at your bounty hunter ships. It looks like you've got Houndstooth at 5-star already and Slave 1 maxed out. I'd go ahead and work on your other two bounty hunter ships. That way you can get them to 5-star and at least get the Millennium Falcon unlocked, because it does make a difference. I know I went for the unlock, and even at 5-star, I can still get up to rank 1 if I have the time. So it's well worth at least getting the unlock. Put a little bit of effort in, and it'll pay some dividends. Switching over to your Sith ships here. Looks like those need quite a bit of work. I hear you. Mine do too. Those are theorized to be the next meta with the Emperor's shuttle coming out. They'd probably synergize well with those. You already have Vader and, of course, the Scimitar. So if you want to work on the others, that may not be a bad idea. But it'll be a while before the Emperor's shuttle is viable anyway with the farming game that they came out with for this. So I think you got plenty of time on those. But that's just another ship faction that you probably want to keep your eye on and just put a little bit of work in as you're able, so that you can climb in that arena, get out of the 200s and up toward the top where you'll be able to get more crystals. It's going to help you grow a lot faster. Alright, let's get into your characters where the real fun begins. Looks like you're getting up to 55 in your arena squad. That's only going to improve with your Revan team. Now everybody can beat everybody. Let's go ahead and take it faction by faction. We'll hit the main factions, and then we'll see where we are. Alright, first up is Bounty Hunters. Looks like you've got a solid Bosk, Boba, and Greedo. Your Dengar's almost up there. And then either IG-88, Zam, or Cad Bane you have to choose from for your last one. I'd pick one of those. I mean, IG-88's really squishy. Cad Bane's pretty stout once he gets up there. I'd focus on just one of those, maxing them out, getting them where their health and protection needs to be so they don't die so quick. Wouldn't worry about the others because you're not ready to rock a second bounty hunter squad. You've got a ways to go with Jango and Aura and Embo. And until you're ready to get those up, I mean, there's no point in having 6 or 7 bounty hunters ready. You're not going to be able to do anything with the odd bits and ends. So focus on your Dengar, get one more up, and you should be good to go there. So going into clones, you really only need to worry about focusing on Rex. It looks like you have him at gear 8 here. He needs a little love there. He's real squishy at 11 and lower. Even at 12 he kind of is. But it would be good for you to get him up to gear 12 because he's so versatile. He can lead a bunch of different teams, so he's well worth the effort. Work on maxing him out, and you'll have another squad for Territory Wars, Grand Arena, possibly even the regular arena, depending on what the next meta shift will be. Other than him, I wouldn't worry about your other clones. They're only gimmicky right now, and if you don't have them up, there's right now no reason to get them up. So don't worry about them, just focus on Rex. He'll open up a whole lot of possibilities. Speaking of that, Wampa, looks like you're putting work into Wampa. You got him up at 6-star. Keep working on him. He's really good. Get him up to 12 if you can. or at least 11 with maxed out abilities. He is a strong attacker and he can put in a lot of good work. It wouldn't be a bad idea to put his cornered beast Zeta on, because that way he'll have more options. He'll be able to power up with the dots, put him in a dot squad. It'll give you a lot more versatility. So you might consider that. I have it. I have no regrets. He's well worth it. Alright, so let's get into your droids now. One piece of advice I'd give you here is to get your IPD up. It's really low gear right now. You kind of want it at gear 11 at this point, just so that it'll last longer, give you some options in case things go haywire. It's so squishy because it's so low right now that if you put it in, you may not get to blow up your intended target. It makes it useless half the time. So get some more health on it, protection, and gear it up a bit. Then you'll have a good weapon to use in wars and such. Come in really handy. Another piece of advice is C3PO. It looks like you didn't max him out last time around, but go ahead and gear him up. He adds a lot of versatility to Resistance, to Rebels, to Ewoks. You definitely want to put some work into him. And he'll be stealth most of the time, so it's not necessary for him to be loaded up with HP, but you do want to up his game a little bit just so that he doesn't get one shot or, things go south if he does come out of stealth. While I'm talking about C3PO, let me mention that you might consider giving him his Zeta of Oh My Goodness. It helps his ability out so that it inflicts 2 stacks of Confuse on the enemy. Makes it really useful. Otherwise, it's a lot harder to set things up with him. It helps out a lot. You don't necessarily need his Wait For Me Zeta, only if you're going to use him with R2. But the Oh My Goodness is one of the better ones to have. So go ahead and consider giving that to him, and it'll work wonders for your teams in different things like arena, even in raids. It's very useful. Getting into your Empire now, looks like you're doing a good job here. Ignoring the Imperial troopers for the moment, everybody looks to be in usable shape. Gear 9 is at least the minimum that you want the heroes that you plan on using for wars and such. So you're doing a good job there. I would put a little bit of more work into Tarkin just because he can be so useful with his AoE and inflicting debuffs under EP lead. You might consider that, but at least he's in passable shape now. Let's jump over to your Ewoks. Looks like they're in passable shape. You got the Zeta on Chirpa. They were good enough to get you 5-star C3PO. If you want to go for the 7-star next time that comes around, I'd really put some work into Logray. You can do it without him, but that's going to be hours and hours of aggravation, attempt after attempt, which I'm sure you've seen the other videos or maybe even tried it yourself. So consider putting work into him, and it'll make your job a lot easier next time that comes around. And once they're good enough to 7-star C3PO, they're passable for everything else like TW and Grand Arena is good enough. I wouldn't go breaking the bank over them. Alright, let's get into your first order here. Looks like you got the Zeta on Crew, so that's good. You don't have a Zeta on regular Kylo. I would suggest that because it does add a lot of survivability to him. Will help your squad if that's something that you put on defense, like in Territory Wars or Grand Arena. I would go ahead and get Fu up. You want to take him to gear 12 because he's very squishy, even at 11. He needs the extra health piece from 12 and the other gear to help with his survivability. So take him and then 2 others, probably Phasma, probably the Special Forces one, because it looks like you have him start up already. They're not useful sitting at gear 8. I mean, gear 9 would be the minimum. I would leave those two, but you want them sitting at probably 11 or 12. Definitely not 8. One that you should really get up is Fox, the Executioner. He does a ton of damage. He fits really well in that squad, offense or defense. So you should be trying to star him up just here and there and getting his gear up. He can work good even at lower stars, but he shines at gear 12 and 7 star. So consider him if you want to have first order as a viable all-around squad. That's something you'd want to do. Alright, so let's get into your Imperial Troopers here. They need a bit of work because you stopped at gear 8 on a lot of them, and I understand why. Gear 8 is kind of the cutoff where the easy gear stops and it starts getting harder with Carbantes and stun guns and cuffs and whatnot. But you really want to get them up to a minimum of 9, but as close to gear 11, gear 12 as you can, just to help from a survivability standpoint. You also want to focus on range. Looks like you've put some stars into him. Even at the stars he's at now, he can put in a lot of work. He's really, really good. If you can just get him up to gear 11, he can help the team out so much that they'll be able to take on tougher teams on offense that you wouldn't be able to take on now without him. So go ahead and consider at least putting some gear on him. And then Shore Trooper, he's a pre-taunting tank and he heals. He's one of the best dark side tanks that you have. So level him up. Gear 11, again, gear 12 is best. But tanks are in short supply, and it's always good to have a good one. He'll work good for imps. He'll work good under EP lead. So you definitely want to get him up, again, to gear 11 if you can. Stark at least to 9. And as long as he's fast, you can start the turn meter train rolling and, hopefully he'd survive. But again, 8 is just really low. 8 and lower is about useless in things like wars. So consider that. They need a little bit of love, but you'll have a good, viable squad if you can get them into decent shape. Moving on to Jedi. You're doing really well here, especially since you were able to get Revan, and you're only going to do better as you gear those up and continue to work with them for as long as this arena meta lasts. You should be able to move up quite nicely. Keep working on them. Only suggestion here would be to pick one more Jedi, whichever one you feel is closest to gearing up or is your favorite, and get them to at least gear 9 plus, and then you can run 2 Jedi squads in Territory Wars or Grand Arena, a Revan lead squad and a Bastilla lead squad. All that can be done for just one character, and you'll have 2 viable squads to use. So it would be a good investment there if you're looking to be able to come up with another team, to get you some points. For your Night Sisters, it looks like you're running MT lead. You want to go ahead and get Mother Talzin up at least to gear 11, since that's a main character you're going to be using anyway. Again, gear 8 is just too low to do anything with. So work on getting her up to make the squad stronger. And then your zombie, looks like you stopped at gear 9. Put gear 10 on him. That's really important for that extra ability that lets him be able to keep coming back and he doesn't get stuck not being able to move. It unlocks at gear 10, so go ahead and upgrade him just one more level, and that makes him a lot better. So, stopping at Old Republic for a minute, it looks like you put enough work in to be able to get Revan, which is great, but I wanted to highlight Zalbar. He's one of the best tanks in the game, one of the most tanky characters there is, so show him some love, get him up to gear 11, gear 12. You can put him under Rex with Wampa for dots. You can put him in a lot of places, but definitely show him some love because he will help you out tremendously. Going over to your Phoenix, there's not much to say here. Looks like they're in passable enough shape as is for TB. They're not much useful for anything else, so don't stress over them. They're not worth it. So on to Rebels. I know that's kind of a catch-all category. Looks like you're doing pretty well here overall. Keep working on Chewie, maybe Han, get their gear up to gear 12 when you can. Work on a little bit on Old Ben, just because being a tank, that makes him really useful. Always seems like you need a good tank. You're doing the right thing here by not gearing up ones you know you're not going to use. The Hoth brothers, Old Lando. Leave them low level, leave them low gear. If there's not an immediate use for them, there's no reason to fluff up your GP any more than it is. Move into your resistance. Again, this is one of the squads that you're doing really well with. Looks like you run JTR lead. Again, if you get C3PO up, work on his gear, give him that Zeta, it'll turn this squad from okay or pretty good into really great. You'll be able to chop down Revan teams, and it's always nice to have that as a counter. At this point, you don't need to worry about Zetaing Finn. I mean, that was good. If you already had it, it would be okay. But there's other places that you could use a Zeta, so Finn lead would just be a backup anyway, and you don't need to worry about that at this point. Other than that, there's nobody you really need to work on, otherwise. You've got Stick Ray, you've got the droids, and you've got JTR. That's good enough. Makes your resistance pretty decent for now. For Rogue One, there's not a lot you need to worry about. You've got Chase up, you've got Jin lead Zeta. That'll get you through the special missions as far as TB is concerned. It's not really too stressful. Maybe put a little bit of work into Cassian because, again, he's gear 8, which is basically useless. 9+ is where you want to be so that they have some utility and can survive a little bit. So consider that, but there's not much to do here. So your Scoundrels, another catch-all faction. We've already talked about your bounty hunters, so we won't go back into them. I wanted to stop here so I can mention Kira. As a Kira lead, your Scoundrels can do some work. The reason I mention this is because of the trick with Kira lead, even though she's low gear, get that lead ability up, and then put her with Nest. Just her and Nest can wipe out a fully modded Gear 12 Bastilla team in Grand Arena or TW, and of course even better in 3v3. So you already have Nest. Maybe put a little bit of work into Nest, possibly put the Zeta on there while you work on starring Nest up. But with Kira as is, as long as you get her lead up, she's going to do good things even at a low gear. So it doesn't take much investment there. And you've got a counter team. And we'll see Bastilla in Territory Wars for sure. That's another 20 points that can go on your board and take down a team that way. Pretty simple. And then Mission and Zalbar. I already mentioned Zalbar. Mission pairs along with Zalbar is good, but not something you need to worry about till you're ready to run a full Kira lead Scoundrel team. So consider that, keep it in your back pocket, but Nest and then Kira's lead ability is all you need to focus on out of here for now, and you'll be in good shape. Let's move on into your Sith, which is a really strong faction that you have with several Gear 12 characters. That's really good. The only point I need to mention here that's going to do you any immediate favors is the Dark Side Bastilla. Even though you have her at low stars, go ahead and gear her up. Get her to gear 11. She's not too bad to gear, and she can do a world of wonders. Again, she can counter a Revan team. So work on her and she pays dividends. All right, man, that brings us full circle back to the beginning of your roster. You're sitting at 3.1 mil right now. I think you're doing pretty well for your GP level. If you follow these tips, hopefully it'll help you to be a little bit more efficient in Territory War and, of course, Grand Arena. And you should be able to maximize the banners that you get. Let's recap some suggestions for your Zetas. BB-8, roll with the punches. That's going to improve your score as far as resistance goes, or if you run them with droids, or like in raids like the tank raid. It's definitely a useful Zeta, so go to make that a priority. Kylo, if you want to work with your First Order squad and that's important to you, I'd go ahead and get his added on there to make him a lot more survivable. C3PO's OMG Zeta, that's definitely a top one that you want to think about putting on him. And then Wampa for Cornered Beast, because it's going to maximize his damage and make him, give you a lot more options as far as attacking and who you can run with him. So hopefully these tips as far as gearing and Zetas help you. And thanks for helping me out with my videos and all the graphics that you do and just being available to answer questions. I really appreciate it. Please keep up the good work and keep on, man. We'll catch you later.